All right, welcome back with bill hearings. Is anyone here from Senator Gazzone's office? All right, come on up. And Senate Bill 973, Jane Cranky. Jane, come on up. This bill codifies the private hospital grant program to make recommendations to the governor for funding in the annual state budget for capital projects at private hospitals. You guys want to add anything? You're welcome to. Witnesses have 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Lola Odioye, here on behalf of Senator Gazzone to present Senate Bill 973, Hospitals Private Hospital Grant Program Funding. This bill was passed by both the Budget and Taxation Committee and the full Senate unanimously. The bill codifies the private hospital grant program to make recommendations to the governor for funding in the annual state budget for capital projects at private hospitals. The Maryland Hospital Association must establish a review committee and submit recommendations to the governor and the Secretary of Budget and Management. The ability of this committee is to provide a medical perspective on the many requests received from the hospitals across the state. This bill will provide the governor with the discretion beginning in FY 2026 to include in the capital or operating budget an appropriation of $20 million excuse me, for the program. Thank you, and I ask for a favorable report of Senate Bill 973.
Good afternoon, Chairman. Good afternoon, Chairman Barnes and members of the review committee. My name is Jane Cranky. I'm here on behalf of the Maryland Hospital Association in strong support of Senate Bill 973. Just basically a me too. We have been dedicated stewards of this program since the 90s, and we appreciate Chair Gazzone codifying the program and including a recommendation for a $20 million funding level. We ask for a favorable report. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll turn to Senate Bill 1120. I believe Susan Lawrence is with us from the agency. Welcome.
Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee, Susan Lawrence, University System Maryland, here in support of Senate Bill 1120. This bill should be very familiar to you as it comes before you year after year. Departmental bill authorizes the use of $30 million in academic facilities bonds for financing and refinancing construction, renovation, and renewal projects at USM.
Annual bonding bill. Any questions from the committee? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Senator Benson's with us. Senate Bill 202. Senator, it's great to see you. You can bring anybody up you want. There's some witnesses here, Senator. We can welcome them up. Tammy Bresnahan, Dorinda Adams, Lynn Nash, Eloise Main. You all can come up and sit with the senator if that's her desire.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of this wonderful committee. You know, when I walked in here, I thought about Senator, I thought about my wonderful friend, Pauline Menace, who sat in this committee. Can't tell you how often I think about her. She, for those of you who didn't know her, I'm telling you, she was a strong advocate for the rights of women and people here in Annapolis. She fought so hard for the little people. I thought about her when I walked in the door. Once again, good afternoon, Chairman Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and wonderful members of this committee. I am here to present Senate Bill 202, the Caregiver Tax Credit. This legislation, which has a significant impact on many people in our state, addresses the issues and the crisis facing families who are providing care for elderly or disabled family members. Certain caregivers do not earn a fair wage for the work they endure daily, and working class families cannot afford to pay them their desired wages. How does one accommodate the needs of caregivers who have an essential role in providing quality of life to people who are elderly and people who are disabled? The caregiver tax credit will directly impact the caregivers by providing them with a credit against their state income tax. The goal of this legislation is to grant some caregivers a credit against their state income tax equal to 30% of their eligible expenses that exceed $2,000 in value. This is essential in granting a form of amnesty to our caregiver initiatives across the state. Out of 5 million people in Maryland, 11% of our citizens have disabilities, and 16.3% are considered elderly. When combined, equal to a total of 27.3% of Maryland residents eligible for caregiver needs. The yearly wage within caregivers' professions rank low outside of private agencies, and they're given little relief throughout their careers. These conditions directly correlate to overexhaustion, which affects the quality of services provided to the residents of Maryland. These statistics emphasize the importance of caregivers and highlight their pay disparities in correlation with their work. Caregivers who are assisting individuals with disabilities often start their workday before their client wakes up and after they fall asleep, resulting in shifts exceeding 8 hours a day. Individuals that need 24-hour assistance cannot be left alone, which can put additional stress on caregivers because they cannot be relieved to go home until the next caregiver comes to work. Insurance does not like to pay for overtime, which also induces stress to caregivers. The unreliable work schedules make it difficult for caregivers to have an additional job to help pay their bills. Therefore, I'm respectfully urging and requesting that this committee issues a favorable report for Senate Bill 202.
Good afternoon, Chairman Barnes and Vice Chair Chang. My name is Tammy Bresnahan. I'm the Director of Advocacy for AARP Maryland. I'd like to direct you and the committee members to the third reader copy of SB 202. We support Senate Bill 202, Department of Aging Caregiver Expense Grant Program. As Senator Benson eloquently put it about the need of caregivers, when this bill went before the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee, in their wisdom, they decided that, there was a very large fiscal note on the tax credit program and have turned it into a Department of Aging Caregiver Expense Grant Program. That's why it's here before you. House Bill 32 that was introduced in Ways and Means was also an income tax credit. You have my written testimony on why we think caregivers need that. We have formed a coalition. Beside me is my volunteer, Dorinda Adams, who is also my former colleague at the Department of Human Services. We think that this grant program complements the Family Caregiver Support Program at the Department of Aging. I just want to read to you a few lines. The Maryland Family Caregiver Support Program is administered by the Maryland Department of Aging, is a part of the national network of caregiver programs funded by the Federal Administration for Community Living. And some of those requirements: adult family members or other informal caregivers age 18 and older providing care to individuals 60 years of age and older, adult family members or other informal caregivers age 18 and older providing care to individuals of any age with Alzheimer's disease and related disorders, grandparents other than relatives, and older providing care to children under the age of 18. We ask you for a favorable report. Thank you.
I might want to add, Mr. Chair, that this has been a top priority for AARP.
Thank you. Cross-file was Delegate Harrison from Prince George's County. Yes, sir.
Hello, Chairman Barnes and members of the Appropriations Committee. I am Dorinda Adams, and I'm here as a proud AARP volunteer who, as Tammy mentioned, 32 plus years within the Department of Human Services. I actually, in that role at the Department of Human Services, one of my other duties as assigned was to serve as the executive director staff person to the Maryland Commission on Caregiving. Family caregivers have been a passion of mine for the bulk of my career. And the primary work that I have had in supporting Senate Bill 202 was to organize the many different organizations in our state to come together. And we have garnered a grassroots coalition of at least 15 organizations that support this bill. Many of them have submitted formal testimony. I want to say, as I'm closing, think about the circle of care. We know that there's a possibility that we may currently be a caregiver, we may need a caregiver, or we have been a caregiver at some point in our lives. So that circle of care is the care recipient and the family caregiver and the role that they play. And then all the organizations that have come together to support them in some way. And through this bill, formalizing the state of Maryland to support our family caregivers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being with us and doing what you do and lending your voice to this important topic. It's very much appreciated. Tammy, we couldn't find Senator Harrison's bill. Was it someone else? I don't remember hearing this bill.
You did not. You did not hear this bill, because it went to Ways and Means, because it was a tax credit.
Okay.
And so and it was over in the Senate, when it came out of the Senate, they changed it to a caregiver grant expense program.
I see. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Captain Lynn Nash. I'm a retired public health service officer. I represent the Maryland Military Coalition and 21 organizations that work on behalf of service members currently serving retired and their families. I was a caregiver for both my mom and my dad. And my husband's mom is approaching that point where we're going to have to do it for her. And she lives in Winston-Salem. There's been a lot of discussion about amendment to this bill. When you change it from a credit to a grant program, that's an extra burden for someone who's already working 30 hours, taking care of their person, having a job, and in many cases, having kids. In regards to military, if you're a service member and you get retired medically, before you reach your age of retirement, 20 years, you get a partial retirement. And if you get a VA disability pay due to concurrent receipt, that's the double dipping rule, they take $1 away from your retired pay for every VA dollar, disability dollar that you get. If you cap this at 60 years of age, you are going to exclude every medically retired veteran and those who are retired, because most will not reach the age of 60. I ask you to really reconsider this. A tax credit is easy. It's a box on your tax form. A grant is an application. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairman Barnes and Vice Chair Chang and committee members. My name is Eloise Main. I'm the Assistant Secretary for Grants Administration with the Maryland Department of Aging, and I'm pleased to support Senate Bill 202 with the additional amendments. As you already know, Maryland is fast growing aging in our population. In response to the demographic shift, the Department of Aging recently had an executive order signed by Governor Moore launching the Longevity Ready Maryland initiative. One of the statements in our executive order is that family caregivers play a vital role in the lives of older adults, yet do not receive adequate support. Providing family caregivers direct assistance for expenses will help them balance their caregiving responsibilities with other work and family responsibilities, while supporting their ability to provide care in the homes for their family members as long as possible, and also delaying and preventing their entrance into a nursing home. We note that we are still in the midst of a direct care worker shortage in all, and particularly in long-term care settings, including home care. This new program would also be a real step towards meeting the demand of home care. Since supporting family caregivers is a clear part of longevity readiness and making Maryland more competitive and equitable, the Maryland Department of Aging is ready and willing to start up this new caregiver expense grant. In order to do so, we do request a few key amendments, changing the qualifying minimum age to the care recipient from age 18 to 60. This would align the programs with the Maryland Department of Aging's mission and existing programs.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your testimony. It's important that you're with us. So thank you so much, everyone
You're
who's with us.
Mhm.
Are there any questions for the sponsor or the panel? Delegate Acevedo. And then Delegate Shetty.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Benson, for bringing this bill. Very important. And I think we all have personal testimonies of, providing care for a family member and just how taxing that could be, not just physically, but on your finances. Wanted to, so again, appreciate you for bringing the bill. Wanted to just ask the two panelists on the far left a question based on your testimony. You had mentioned the tax credit versus a grant and grant application. Can you expound on that, in the sense that what did the Senate do, and what are you all hoping as far as like the bill? And then lastly, I guess for the young lady on the farthest left. If you
Eloise
can,
May, no problem.
yes, I know you had some more that you wanted to share with your testimony as far as like the age limit.
Yeah, we're in support of the grant, the Maryland Department of Aging, as it aligns with our National Family Caregiver Program, which falls under the Older Americans Act. So it's a caveat that allows us to use the resources and pair the programs based on our federal and state mandates.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. I think it's a really, really innovative idea, and I'm really excited to learn more about it. So thank you for bringing this to us, and thank you, advocates, for sharing your stories. This question is for the Department of Aging individual. Thank you for being here. Do you all currently operate any similar types of direct to individual grant programs, or would this be like one of the first that you would be setting up?
We offer the National Family Caregiver Program. It falls under the Older Americans Act. It's a program that offers supportive services, but not necessarily reimbursement for caregiver expenses.
Got it. And then is there any potential federal funding that could be matched or leveraged based on the Older Americans Act, or is that already exhausted under the current?
It's already exhausted, unfortunately.
Okay, great. So maybe Maryland can be one of the first that sets up a model. Okay, thank you.
To you. That concludes bill hearing.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you.
Behave yourselves this afternoon.
We'll do our best. That's a good segue. That's a good segue for Delegate Grice, Senate Bill 530.
Sir. Oh, adds Cecil County government to a list of 11 other county governments where they have until December 31st to file their financial audits.
Local bill, any questions? Concludes the bill hearing. Senate Bill 368, Senator Waldstreicher, Mr. Vice Chair, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mr. Chair. Thank you for having me, Mr. Vice Chair, Madam Subcommittee Chair. I appreciate your being here. Senate Bill 368 has no cross file, so this is the first time this committee is hearing the bill. As many of you who serve on the subcommittee know, the state provides a 5-year benefit for military service or the uniformed public health service in our pension system. But a quirk has arisen that a constituent brought my attention to that needs to be remedied. Senate Bill 368 remedies that quirk. It passed the Senate and the subcommittee and the committee unanimously. Here is what the bill does. If you are in the uniformed military service, whether you deploy or not, whether you're in wartime or not, you receive the 5-year benefit. But if you're in the uniformed public health service, you only receive the benefit if you served in World War II or in the Vietnam War. Those service members have aged out. And so this bill applies the entirety of the 5-year credit to everyone who served in the public health service. You're going to hear from my constituent, Glenda Grogan, who served in such service. And the bill has no fiscal note. I ask for a favorable report.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Glenda Grogan, and I'm testifying today as a former lieutenant commander in the Commissioned Corps of the United States Public Health Service. Early in my career, I accepted a position as an occupational therapist at the National Institutes of Health with the Commissioned Corps. Commissioned Corps officers wear a uniform, carry a military ID, and receive the same benefits as active duty military. In addition to conducting research and giving patient care, PHS officers are subject at any time to deployment to all parts of the nation and the world to address health crises such as 9/11, the Ebola epidemic, Hurricane Katrina, and the COVID-19 pandemic. Commissioned Corps officers serve where they are needed most, addressing complex medical issues affecting the health of the American people. I'm proud to have been a member of the Commissioned Corps. So in my current position as an occupational therapist with Montgomery County Public Schools, when I saw that there was a military service benefit available to Maryland educators, I applied. However, my application was denied because my service in the Commissioned Corps did not occur during the Vietnam War, the Korean War, or World War II. So that's why I'm here, to testify in support of this bill, making service in the Commissioned Corps at any time eligible to receive the military service benefit. When you take the oath to serve in the Commissioned Corps, you don't know what health crisis you may face or where you may be deployed, but you know that this is part of your duty of service. I believe this is true service, fully deserving of receiving this valuable and meaningful credit. I urge you to support this bill. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Thank you for your advocacy. Any questions for the bill sponsor or panel? Okay, thank you all for being with us. I think there's one more witness. I'm not sure if they're here. Lynn Nash. All right, Lynn, welcome.
I just changed, right? So I'm also a public health retiree. And the reason I'm here is because, once again, guys, this is one of those tangled term issues, military service versus uniform service. We had this discussion on the Family Cares Act. We had this discussion on several bills going across. I ask that when you hear the word military, you need to think the word uniform services and include both NOAA and public health. Thank you for your service, ma'am.
Thank you.
We've got 7,000 retirees here. You've got 10,000 jobs that that are vacant. Hire us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
I appreciate your grace, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the Appropriations Committee, Senator Antonio Hayes, representing the 40th Legislative District for the record. Senate Bill 205 aims to sustain the positive impact of representation from all parts of the state on the border regions. Essentially, this bill requires that one of the members of the border regions be a graduate of a historically Black college and university in the State University of Maryland system. The HBCUs represent nearly 30% of the institutions that are within the Board of Regents. There is representation from HBCUs currently on the board, but none of which are from a Maryland HBCU. I think having a representation, given the significant, composition of the institutions that's represented, would be a positive step to add into the diversity of board. And I ask for a favorable report. This bill had no opposition. And again, I ask for a favorable report for Senate Bill, whatever it was, 205. Thank you so very much, Mr. Chair, for your indulgence.
With that one, and then you also have 322 to follow.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the BEST Committee and the House of Delegates. The place that born me, it took 6 years for me to. What's that?
You said House of Delegates, but I think you meant General Assembly.
General, okay. My bills are before you,
All
Mr.
right.
Chairman. And so I'm glad to be home. Senate Bill 114 is a work group study regarding public-private partnerships. And if the members of the committee that served while I was here remember, Prince George's County was the first county to participate in this authorization bill. We are in the midst of building our 10th school. And we enjoyed the process. We're looking to go to the high school level. Secondly, we did Charles County and Baltimore City. This year I'm here for Calvert County. So we appreciate a favorable report. This is an enabling piece of legislation only. Should the counties agree to participate in the process, they can, but it's a very important piece as we all struggle with school construction going forward. So I'd ask Mr. Chairman and members for a favorable report.
All right, let's move into the next one. Can we bring the panel up? Is that okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Rhonda Bell, Tammy Bresnahan, Nakia Smith. Denise Gilmore's here as well, not on the panel, but Denise, if you want to come up and then you're just ready. That's okay with the sponsor. Senate Bill 322.
All right, thank you very much.
Denise unfavorable. Actually, Denise, I'm sorry. Just 1 second.
Hold on, just for a second.
Just for a second.
All right, for the record, Senator Michael Jackson, District 27, on behalf of Senate Bill 322. Senate Bill 322 is a piece of legislation that would require the State Board of Trustees of the Maryland Teachers and State Employees Supplemental Retirement Plans to implement an automatic enrollment arrangement for state employees who are hired on or after January 1st. It actually came to me in consultation with the Board of Trustees. The belief of this legislation is that it authorizes authorizing automatic enrollment will allow the board to support all new state employee participants as they plan for retirement. There's unfortunately, sometimes there's a huge gap between pre and post employment retirement income. With that, I would like to turn it over to my panel. Mr. Chair and members of the committee, this bill passed both the budget and taxation with a 12-1 vote there and a 40-6 vote in the full Senate. So we're asking for a favorable report. We believe this is a very important step to ensure that all employees in the state of Maryland can retire with dignity and have the benefits that many of us have. Those of us who are sitting around this table, we're part-time, we're citizen legislators, but we have an opportunity to participate in plans that can help enhance our retirement efforts. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Bell.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Rhonda Bell, Executive Director of the Maryland Supplemental Retirement Plans. With me today is our Deputy Executive Director and CFO, Nakia Smith. Thank you for the opportunity to discuss Senate Bill 322. MSRP's single focus is state employees' retirement readiness. Last summer, we produced our automatic enrollment study, and some key findings were: a pension and Social Security alone are not enough for the average employee's retirement. Automatic enrollment is highly effective and is preferred over self-enrollment by a large majority of employees. Public employees hesitate to self-enroll even after receiving education on retirement savings. Women are more likely to be unprepared to retire versus men and have more debt due to lower salaries and having to stop work to care for family. 61% of our state employees are women. People of color are more likely to be unprepared to retire versus white employees and largely depend on Social Security for retirement income due to the absence of family wealth transfers. 52% of our state employees are people of color. Additionally, auto enrollment will not affect teachers at the local boards of education. MSRP's board will set a default payroll deduction amount in accordance with IRS guidelines and industry standards, not arbitrarily. There are no known plans to abolish the state pension system. Fee holidays are likely to increase as plan enrollments increase. Our special thanks to Senator Jackson for sponsoring this very important piece of legislation, and we are requesting that you submit a favorable report on Senate Bill 322. We're happy to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Appropriations Committee. My name is Tammy Bresnahan. I'm the Senior Director of Advocacy for AARP Maryland. As what the bill was described to you, I want just to emphasize one thing. This is a very important piece of the three-legged stool: Social Security, pension, and supplemental retirement. While the bill will allow automatic enrollment, just don't forget that employees will also be able to opt out. AARP's research shows that people are more likely to save when saving occurs automatically through mechanisms such as the payroll deduction. Only about half of U.S. workers have access to an employer-sponsored retirement plan, and we thank the state for offering this to their employees. AARP has a long history of advocating for retirement plans like this. While we worked on Maryland Saves, and many of you voted on that as well, we feel like that Senate Bill 322 is part of the three-legged stool, and that more state employees, as a former state employee, no one told me about the supplemental retirement plan until I was almost 15 years into my retirement. And, if you just do the math, that would have been almost $200,000 I could have saved between the age of 22 and 35. So we ask you for a favorable report on Senate Bill 322. We also thank Senator Jackson for bringing this bill forward. Thank you.
Testify if there are any budget related questions.
And just so you know, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Treasurer Davis was scheduled to be one of our panelists, but I think it's a little busy today. But he does have written testimony in your packet, so we'll stand for questions. Thank you very much. See you all shortly. 3 o'clock.
Just get it. General Collins is in the hall.
Mr. Chair, am I allowed to testify in opposition to, sorry. No, it's I appreciate that. I won't take it, but good afternoon, everyone. My name is Denise Gilmore, and I am the Legislative Director for AFSCME Council 3. We are largest union representing state employees in state government. We are here to oppose Senate Bill 322. We take our responsibility as exclusive bargaining representative to state employees very seriously. In coming up with policy positions, we consult our national union, who has health and retirement experts. We consult with affiliate leaders in other states. Universally, they are all telling us that this is a bad deal for our employees. In our written testimony, we give some detail on the differences between like a defined contribution or supplemental plan, like the Maryland State Supplemental Plan offers, versus a pension and a defined benefit plan. There are differences between the two. Our issue with this bill is it almost treats the two the same, and they're not the same. Maryland wisely has gone with the decision to have state employees contribute to a pension when they get hired. The pension is the vehicle that provides the most good for most retirees potentially. So it makes sense to, invest and support the pension in that way. But the supplemental plan is just that. It's supplemental. It shouldn't be something that folks are forced to join when they first get hired. I understand there's an opt-out provision, but I think for the same reasons that people talk about maybe not having ever learned about the supplemental plan, I will say that we are also very skeptical that that same mechanism then is going to somehow produce enough communication to allow folks to opt out then of deduction that, quite frankly, many of our members who are working paycheck to paycheck simply can't afford. I will leave it there, but we strongly urge an unfavorable recommendation on SB 322. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to clarify. So your concern is that they won't know how to opt out of the plan?
So we've got, our concerns are kind of twofold. One is with the kind of philosophy, if you will, that has employees automatically join a supplemental plan, right? Supplemental plans are just that. The goal of a supplemental plan is for, wealth management and retirement. That's very different than a pension, which goal is to maintain, the worker's current cost of living in their retirement. And so that sort of plan, it oftentimes carries like more risks that are, borne on the individual versus like a pension where the whole pension bears it, right? That sort of plan is something that we do think, employees ideally are going through, a counseling process with a financial advisor of, their choosing, who can look at their, financial situation and best provide guidance on, which retirement supplemental plan might be best for them. So philosophically, we've got an issue with auto enrolling folks into, this one particular, MSRP plan, right? People should get the chance to choose if they want to do it or not. But specific to this bill and how it's implemented, I think there are a lot of questions on what that opt-out process is actually going to look like. Like, we've heard that the reason we need auto enrollment is because nobody hears about the supplemental plan when, people are first hired. Well, somehow that same mechanism then is going to be responsible for telling folks how to opt out with this guy. We haven't worked that out, which concerns us. I will say, a pretty big difference for us, at least, between the two plans. Again, the supplemental, the state supplemental plan and the pension plan is, at least on the pension plan, active and retired employees also have seats on the board. So they get the chance to obviously provide way more oversight over this process. There are no dedicated seats on the supplemental plan for active or state employees. So, there really isn't that opportunity to make sure the oversight's happening for them.
Appreciate the feedback. I'll just end with a quick comment. An 18-year-old that enrolls in the historical S&P 500 returns 88 times their money by the time they're 65. A 30-year-old returns 25 times their money. The most important decade of your life for savings for retirement is the first 10 years. It's also when the people are the most uninformed. So my view is the plans like these are really important for the same union workers to actually develop wealth, and it's at the time they're the least informed. So thank you.
And I appreciate that. I want to make it very clear, we are not opposed to supplemental plans. We're opposed to, the state auto enrolling people in a supplemental plan that may not even be best for them or their long-term financial future.
Thank you. That concludes the bill hearing. Now move, sorry, Senator Dial. Senate Bill 697 and General Collins.
Mr. Chair, can I bring up General Collins too? Thank
Welcome.
you.
Good to see you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. Senator Don Gile here to present Senate Bill 697. There was a cross file of this bill, House Bill 1504. However, it was introduced late, and it's my understanding has not been reported out of rules. So this is the first time that this committee is hearing this bill. This bill would simply remove the $60 monthly cap on the health and dental insurance premium reimbursement that was established last year under the Healthcare for Heroes Act of 2023. You may recall that the Healthcare for Heroes Act would award grants for up to $60 per month to any member of the Maryland National Guard who is eligible for TRICARE Reserve Select TRICARE is the health insurance plan that's offered for military. So what this bill would do is basically lift the cap. The premiums are $51.95 per month and $256.87 per month for family coverage. So this would help with families to get coverage for not only the Guard member, but also their families. This just to keep in mind as well that oftentimes National Guard, most of the time, have jobs outside of the Guard, may also choose to get covered under their employer plan, may not decide to get coverage under TRICARE. So this just opens it up to give the more coverage to include family members under the policy. Senate Bill 697 was amended in the Senate to clarify that removing the cap provides the Maryland Military Department discretion to issue awards at varying levels, but does not affect appropriations for the TRICARE premium reimbursement program. Therefore, the adjusted fiscal note shows no additional cost to the state. And I have General Collins here also to provide more information, request a favorable report on Senate Bill 697. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Good afternoon, Chairman Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and members of the House Appropriations Committee. My name is Brigadier General Andrew Collins, Deputy Adjutant General, and I'm here today to speak on behalf of the dedicated men and women of the Maryland National Guard and advocate for Senate Bill 697, the cap removal of the Healthcare for Heroes TRICARE Premium Reimbursement Program, which also received a favorable unanimous vote from the Senate. As a member of the National Guard, I can attest to the sacrifices that my fellow citizen soldiers and airmen make to ensure safety and well-being of our great state and nation. Providing our Guard members and their families with affordable health care ensures the readiness when we are called to serve. With the cap removed, service members like Staff Sergeant James Whiting, a firefighter with the Maryland Air National Guard, said he would use the extra money from his reimbursed premiums to help fund his retirement savings. For other Guard members, the extra money would go towards daycare, gas for commuting to work, groceries, or other college tuition for themselves or their families. I know firsthand the challenges of balancing a military service and civilian life. The demands of the Guard often require service members to take time away from work and their families to serve their country. It is only fitting that we provide them with the support they need, including affordable health care. Governor Moore proclaimed 2024 as Maryland's Year of the Military Family. Providing health care for them is an important tool for recruiting and retention of Maryland citizen soldiers and airmen. Please consider this critical readiness issue for Guard members to always be there when the state and nation needs them. Our citizen soldiers and airmen are worth the investment, and I know it will make us better state now and into the future as we retain their incredible talent and dedication. In conclusion, I respectfully ask the committee for a favorable report of Senate Bill 697, the Healthcare for Heroes TRICARE Premium Reimbursement Program. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this important bill. And thank you, General, for all that you do, and for both of you for your strong advocacy for our service members and their families. I saw in the bill file the written testimony from the Maryland Military Coalition suggesting that with the limited resources that you all have, the program should consider prioritizing junior enlisted and Guard members rather than just having a first come, first serve availability. And the TRICARE reimbursement benefit is obviously the right thing to do, in my opinion, but it can also be a valuable recruitment tool, but maybe only if it's available to more junior level personnel who are naturally the folks that we're often trying to recruit. It's my understanding that the department already has a plan to implement the TRICARE expansion consistent with that focus. But maybe, General, you could talk a little bit about how the department is going to work to ensure that more junior members will be able to take advantage of the expansion of the reimbursement program, and how the department's plan will align with the actual language of the bill. And additionally, I'm just curious if you're open to the idea of reporting in some detail how the expansion is implemented so that we can have a better understanding of how the funds are being used across personnel of different seniority levels. Thank you.
Certainly. So, the TRICARE is open for all soldiers and airmen for their use. To your point about making it available to junior personnel, and more specifically that the program is currently a first come, first serve. That's not the case. It's not a first come, first serve basis. Basically, we have a budget that we operate within, currently with the cap of $60 per soldier. Considering the FY 25 budget, that would be sufficient to reimburse 932 service members, while the current enrollment stands at 539. We project, based on for various reasons, why soldiers elect or airmen elect not to choose TRICARE Reserve Select for various different reasons. We believe maturation of this program is probably going to settle around 700. So there's really no need at this point to not offer this opportunity for all service members, regardless of rank. Basically, what we'd be able to do is, by lifting this cap, we have demonstrated our ability to manage funds appropriately, and would do so by ensuring that, based on the current projected enrollments, the current and projected enrollments, that we would be able to lift the amount from $60 to upwards of $100 per service member. That way, that would service approximately 726, which is above what we project our enrollments to be once we meet full maturation of the program.
Thank you.
Good to see you too. I should sit in the front and stare at you to get calls sooner, right? Is that how it works? Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
That's all right.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair Barnes and Vice Chair Chang. For the record, Senator Johnny Ray Salling. And Senate Bill 556, it's a construction contract bill. It's a modification clause. It's going to help our state contractors, strictly just our state contractors, and it would provide and allow for contractors to petition to be reimbursed for increased costs for materials when the prices dramatically rise, such as in recent inflation, for instance, specifically in COVID and what happened there. Just to let you know, this bill has been amended, but before I go into that, I want to thank a previous committee that did a study last year. We had some of the House members, House Member Kerr and House Member Johnson with General Services to help us out to get this right. And I appreciate their time and talent helping me out and getting this bill through. But there's two amendments with this, but it authorizes payment for construction funds under specific conditions in current law for construction contract that include price adjustments for materials and fluctuations of and identify eligible projects, specific materials. The two amendments, one was a technical for just the title. The second amendment is strikes provisions in the bill requiring contracts to include clauses to require contract modifications where there is substantial increase or decrease in the cost of materials. It passed unanimously in the Senate in Budget Tax and also on the Senate floor. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy, but I don't want to lose any more of our state contractors that work for us. They're good workers and they're good hard workers. And I know I appreciate what they've done, but I appreciate the opportunity to present this bill. And again, Mr. Chairman, I am more than happy to answer any questions, sir.
Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill. Is this the bill, Senator, just to remind me, is this the bill for the work quality zones and the minority contractors as well?
All of them are covered as long as they're working for the state of Maryland and they're state contractors. If they're a part of that, they also are part of that as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. That's my senator, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the bill. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful day and I'll see you all three.
You too.
Thanks,
Thank you. Is there anybody here on behalf of a senator? Come on up. You can come first. Yep. Tell us which bill you're here for.
Senate Bill 1142, Senator Zucker.
All right. Welcome. Senate Bill 1142.
Good afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and distinguished members of the committee. For the record, my name is Georgie Jones, and I'm here on behalf of Senator Craig Zucker. Senate Bill 1142 reinstates the Tax Clinics for Low-Income Marylanders Fund, a program that assists low-income residents with their state taxes in court. This bill probably looks familiar. It's passed the committee and the chamber until it was inadvertently struck from the code last year by another bill that was passed. Senate Bill 1142 does have a cross file, House Bill 1506, which was sponsored by Delegate Rosenberg. It did not have a hearing as it was still in rules. We filed these late upon learning of the mistake. It's for this reasons and for restoring the General Assembly's will with the low-income tax clinic fund that we asked for a favorable report on Senate Bill 1142.
Thank you for being with us. Concludes the bill hearing. Come on up.
Afternoon, Chair Barnes, Vice Chair Chang, and members of the Appropriations Committee. For the record, my name is Mary Teal Medina. I'm here representing Senator Paul Quarterman. Thank you for the opportunity to present SB 1077, Appropriations for School Safety Expenditures and School Security Employees. So this bill is actually the cross-filed version of HB 1336 that Delegate Geist had championed for us. This committee has already heard previously, but it has been amended since the last time it was heard before this committee, and it now only authorizes the governor to increase the funding instead of requiring for fiscal year 26 and beyond. Additionally, the amendment returns the bill back to the existing statute that allocates the funding for per school as opposed to pure pupil. So we changed that back to the original statute. But finally, the core intent of the bill remains the same, which is to allow flexibility for local school systems and jurisdictions to access grant funding for school security employees as opposed to just school resource officers to keep our schools safe. The bill passed unanimously in the Senate, and we request a favorable report.
Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Have a great day. All right, Corey McCray, come on up.
Oh.
You can do the bill. Yeah, you better, got you. Yep. Actually, I'll do Alonzo Washington's bill while we'll give him one more minute. Senate Bill 21. This is a study for public high school athletic and physical education facilities. Any questions? That includes the bill hearing. That bought you 30 seconds. But now we're ready to go, so.
I think we have a witness for 1077.
10-7, did I miss one? I've been skipping all over, so.
Okay.
We did Senator Quarterman's bill. What bill are you here for? Oh, your testimony. Okay, come on up. Hey, we're gonna go back to 1077. I forgot.
Sorry, y'all.
this. Welcome.
Hi. My name is Emily Ames Messenger. I'm here with the Coalition to Reform School Discipline. Personally, I'm a social worker, a former teacher. I've spent the last 10 years working on school culture and climate here in Maryland. I also have a kindergartner in Baltimore City Public Schools. And we're here actually to oppose Senate Bill 1077. This bill would double the funds that are going into the Maryland Center for School Safety. This is an additional $10 million, which we know there are many things in schools that need funds desperately. First of all, when you look at the most recent state audit, the Maryland School Safety Center failed that pretty abysmally. They haven't appropriated the $10 million that they already have. They don't need an additional $10 million in the next 2 years. But ultimately, I think what I'm here to say is kind of with the Coalition to Reform School Discipline is with the larger philosophy behind this bill. Ultimately, school police and SROs don't make schools safer. I've acted as emergency response for mental health crises following school violence in more schools than I would care to count, including Mervo and Patterson in the last year. And when you're talking with these kids, what they're saying almost to a doubt is, why don't people care enough to send these supports in before something happens? And so you're sitting in a conversation and you have to say, I don't know. And at Patterson, they had metal detectors, they have school police, they have other school safety officers. But ultimately, when this happens, when you look at national best practices around what happens with school safety, what works is that you have positive relationships, you have restorative practices, you have strong mental health, and you have teachers and staff that have been equipped with systems in order to respond. And ultimately, when you look at how the Maryland School Safety Center is responding, their goal is to send more money and to send a Band-Aid into school police rather than actually addressing the problems inside schools that are going to make them safer.
For your testimony.
Thanks for your time.
Yep, thanks for doing what you do. Any questions for the witness? That will conclude the bill hearing. We will have to do Senator McCrae's bill now. I'm happy to do it, or I'm happy to have you all come up. Okay, come on up. We're doing the bill. All right. Okay, all right. I'm about to do the bill. I'm just telling you, you got about 20 seconds. All right, we don't need a countdown. 3, 2, 1. All right. The bill requires the state procurement units and the Governor's Office of Small Minority and Business Affairs to include in their mandated annual report specified data on minority business enterprises, participation in state contracting for real estate titling services. I think we have a witness. Welcome.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. My name is Manzella Saunders Owings, and I'm president of Integrity Title and Escrow Company. My testimony was previously submitted. However, since the senator is not here, I just want to speak briefly and just state that I'm here in support of the bill, which is really there to increase transparency with respect to real estate property title insurance services, which is a service that my company provides. And specifically, it adds as a category, commercial real estate title insurance, which is a category that's not currently there now, although that other professional services like architecture and engineering are presently there in terms of disclosure. So what, again, we were looking to accomplish is more transparency with respect to the multiple commercial real estate projects that happen in and around the state of Maryland, which are partially funded by the government and therefore should be subject to the reporting requirements that are already there for minority business involvement. Thank you.
I described the bill. Anything else you want to add? You're welcome.
No,
Okay. Well, thanks for being with us. Tell Senator McCrae we got him covered.
Okay, thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you all. We're adjourned. Thanks.
Are we done?